Good morning, Besta. How are you? Did you have a good birthday? I'm sure your family spoiled you terribly rotten. Oh. Do you still have a lot of snow there in Colorado? We got a little bit more last night. So we are really in the throes of winter now. Hi, Linda. Hi, Louise and Marilyn. Checking my computer here. Hi, Kathy. I brought it in front of me so that I can see the names scroll a little better. The phone is just it's too little. Hi, Lori. Hi, Diane. Okay, great. Got quite a few jumping on. That's awesome. So I kind of heard that Facebook is going to eventually delete Facebook Lives on a person's, I guess, business page. And I don't know if it's going to happen in the groups too. But after 30 days, they are going to delete them. So what I need to be mindful to do is when I do a Facebook Live, and I've been doing this, but I can't forget now, is upload the live to my YouTube channel. Because until YouTube decides they would want to do the same thing, they can live there for a lot longer. I don't know why Facebook is doing it. I kind of understand, like, so I've been doing Facebook Lives since 2020. And that's a lot of storage or whatever. And how many people actually go back that far? Now, I've only been doing lives since 2020. Imagine the person who's been doing lives for way much longer, maybe since Facebook has been around. I don't know how long the feature has been available. But how many people actually go back that far? So I kind of get it. It's just something else that we have to learn to move around and find ways to keep our projects and stuff out there. So when and if that happens, then you can just always go over to my YouTube channel, which is my name, Julie Heights. It's not the Chirpy Card Maker. And you can follow me there and get notifications when a new video uploads. Okay? So if you haven't joined or subscribed to my YouTube channel, you might want to do that, because that is where you're going to find Facebook Lives that, until YouTube decides to make changes, they're going to live over there. So there's that little bit of news. Celebration is almost over. If you're interested in joining and just being a hobby demo, let me know. I've kind of heard that the paper pumpkin for March, I guess, is Paper Pumpkin's birthday. And the kit, I think, is going to offer more than one stamp set. Don't quote me on that. I don't normally subscribe to Paper Pumpkin, so it's not something I have a lot of information on. I am going to get the March kit, because word is that it's going to be awesome. You know, when it's somebody's birthday, they tend to go all out. So make sure you check that out, because your Paper Pumpkin, even like if it's a 3-month subscription or even a 1 month, that goes towards your order, and you can earn celebration items with your Paper Pumpkin. So let's see. What else? I missed you guys. I'll tell you, things just don't seem like they're running normally when I miss a live, but I had a lot going on. And you know, when you can recognize that you can't do it all, and you look at your list and you have to prioritize. Sometimes there's hard calls that have to be made. And I kind of had to look at my list of things that I had going on and deadlines and then helping my friend. And it's like, you know, the great thing about doing this is we can prioritize and not, we have options, so you don't have to feel like you're so overwhelmed and you got to do it all. That's just me personally. I try to take on as much as I can until I realize I took on too much. And sometimes that just happens with life. You know, you can be just going really well, everything's falling into place, you don't feel pressured or anything, and then life happens. If it's not happening to you, it might be happening to somebody that you care about. And so you have to be flexible. And that's what I love about what I'm doing, is I do have the flexibility, and I know that all of you understand when we have those things happen. It's not just me, it's other people that you follow. So thank you so much for being flexible and understanding when we have to kind of switch things around. Speaking of switching things around, I am going to flip my camera and we're going to get started on today's mystery quilt card. Okay, again, this is the point where I have to move some things around. So while I'm doing that, please say good morning to each other. And let's move this in. Let's get that glare off of there. And let's try not to make anybody seasick. And then the last thing I want to do is I kind of want to zoom in a little bit, but not too much. And I'd like to be somewhat straight. I think that helps, right? Okay, let's see what that looks like on the computer. I got my water because all morning I've had this like tickle in my throat, and I think that will help. Let's just move this into view so you can see what we're going to be using. Hi, Jasmine. Hi, Marilyn and Sharon. Sharon, you have been so busy with quilt cards lately. Hi, Beth. Oh, great, Beth, you're catching us live. And it's winter break in Maine. How cold is it up there? Because I thought you guys were getting a lot of the weather that pushed through our area. And I think everybody's got this bitter chill. Oh, thank you, Diane. Hi, Sherry. Hello, Susan. Hi, Amanda. Okay, if I missed your name, I am sorry. Hi, Barb. But let's get started in today's project. So I am using the bundle called Linked Together. This is in the mini catalog. What I love is it's just sentiments, and you can combine, you can like say, wishing you a happy day, wishing you the best, wishing you a lifetime of love. These go together, and I love mixing fonts together. I just love just the look. It's very pleasing to me. So when you have like, you know, let's say this is I'm trying to think of when I use Word when I'm creating a document. This would kind of remind me of Arial font, and then you've got your script fonts. So combining the two is really pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to be using I've got a couple of other examples, but I used on one just a note, I used wishing you, and then taking one of the script sentiments and adding it. The bundle has these wonderful dies, and I really wish this diamond was just a little smaller, because this is a perfect shape for like, oh, what's the one quilt pattern that's got all the diamonds? Oh, the quilter's on. Help me out here. I think it's some kind of a star, but you stack them. It reminds me of that quilt pattern we could do, but it just happens to be too big. But if it was smaller, that would be wonderful. But here's a nice oval shape that we need in our geometric shape. So this nice stitched oval, you got the diamond. This little lattice here would be great to put some of these flowers on to look like a garden. And you have some greenery. And it's photopolymer, which I am, you know, in the beginning, I wasn't really a fan of photopolymer. But as I'm getting older and I just seem to like be getting more wonky in stamping, I love that I can see the ink, the inked image, and I can make adjustments if I'm a little crooked or whatever, a little wonky. But, you know, wonkiness in a handmade card, that is the uniqueness and charm of a handmade card. So it's just what expectations you set on yourself. Okay. Hi, Stephanie. Oh, Virginia Beach has lots of snow. Gosh, you probably don't see snow very often, do you? Negative temps at night. Well, that's good. If during the day you can get into the teens and 20s, that's a good thing. But I know, hi Shirley. Shirley's up in Canada, and believe me, they got some snow. If you're not used to it though, and boy, our southern states have really been seeing weather that you would typically see up here up north, and it's got to be just kind of crazy down there because, you know, probably the roads and stuff, they're not equipped to handle removal of snow, or maybe their driving skills in snow and ice aren't up to, you know, what it is for us who expect it every season, and we've learned to drive in those conditions. So yeah, Pam says hello from snowy North Carolina. Oh, the Stamparatus. Yes, Stephanie. You know, I really need to have that Stamparatus out where I can see it, because that really does help with making sure that you can stamp straight. Okay, so let's get started with our project. I've got some little flowers here. These are from the die that is with the LinkedIn bundle. So, and I cut these out of the Bloom Impressions celebration paper. This is actually the B-side to one of the florals. So I've got those to use as accents. The 1x4 piece of designer series paper, I did go ahead and stamp just a note. I just seem to get super wonky if I've got a stamp during a live. So I went ahead and I pre-stamped that. So there's just a note. That's something that's going to go on our card. This piece here is an extra. I decided at the last minute to put some designer series paper on the back of the card. And so we'll talk about that later. I've got my button, and I had you prepare a 4 1/4 by 11 piece of cardstock. This is going to be your card base. I've got some 1/2 inch strips of designer series paper. Whenever we're trimming down pieces, a lot of times you get left with a lot of 1/4 inch strips or 1/2 inch strips. This will work really great because we've got a lot of choices here. We can choose to use the floral sides, or you can flip them over, and now you've got more options in this quilt card to use some more patterns. Now, if you have a stack of half-inch wide pieces of designer series paper that are smaller, we're going to go as long as 1 3/4 inches. So I've got a stack over here of anywhere from 1 3/4 inches in length to a 1/2 inch square. We're not cutting anything over 1 3/4 inches. So we'll be cutting down some of these strips. And then there's a 4-inch square piece of basic white that's going to be for the inside of the card. And then we're going to build our quilt block on this 4-inch square of cardstock. We're going to be using these 4 1/2-inch squares of the same color in our quilt block. And then, okay, I've got all these extra pieces. I cut an extra one, but you may not need this one. But don't fret, because you can just make another quilt block. I'll show you why I brought in a second piece of cardstock when I show you a couple of different layouts for this card after we make it, okay? So to get started, let's go ahead and let's at least let's do our card base. So we're going to do a bookbinding fold. So I'm going to put my cardstock in with the longest side across the top of my trimmer, and I'm going to score it in half at 5 1/2. And then I'm going to move it over to how do I want to say to do this? Boy, my scoring blade is really bad here. I think I'm going to have to order some new ones. So 5 1/2. And then I need a panel that is 1 1/4 inches. So I think I need to go over to 4 1/4. Yeah, that's 1 1 1/4 inches. So 5 1/2 and 4 1/4 is what you want to score your card base at. And I'm going to get that out of the way for a moment. We're going to fold it in half. And we're going to set it aside because we're going to talk about some different things that you can do with this. But the bookbinding fold is what we're going to do is we're going to fold this second score line back on itself, burnish it. We're going to close this, but if you don't want to close it, if you are planning to use ribbon that you want to bring around to the front and tie, you're going to want to make sure that your ribbon is in place before you close it up. Okay, I'm not using ribbon, but I'm just saying, if that's an option for you, don't seal that up without hiding your ribbon on the back side of it. Okay, now let's talk about the grid that we're going to be using. So we have our 4-inch square. Now, you can make this grid using your scoring blade. The thing that I will say is this center square right here is going to be open. So make sure that if you're using an embossing folder to quilt, that it either will hide those score marks. I'll show you that I use the embossing folder with all the circles, and I purposely lined it up so that that circle was in the center. And when I ran it through, it didn't hide my score marks. Now, that's not a big deal because you can always put something in the center to hide it. I am going to just show you using pencil how to mark my 4-inch square. Okay, so here's our 4-inch square, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line at 1.5, 2, and 2.5 vertically and horizontally to get this grid onto our base here for our quilt card. So I'm going to bring in a ruler. Now on my grid, each one of these little squares is 1/4 inch. So 1.5 inches, I would need to go over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm just going to line up those lines. I'm going to use my grid paper to help just get me a straight line. Where's my pencil? Oh. So we're going to do it at 1.5. We're going to come over 2 more squares at 2 inch. And then move over to the right 2 more squares. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it, and I am going to do the same thing. Normally I would have just drawn my lines horizontally, but to do that I would have to probably get my head in the camera, and I don't need to do that. Okay, this pattern is not a stash buster by any means, but you can get rid of some of your little pieces. Okay, so now I know it's hard to see on Night of Navy, but I do have my grid drawn onto my 4-inch base. Okay, if you want to screenshot this, go ahead. I will have a PDF that will drop this weekend, and it'll have this graph in it so that you know how to mark it. Okay, let's move that out of the way. Now, here's something important to remember. When we start building our quilt block, nothing goes in this center square. You will not be, oh boy, I'm buffering. Hi, Linda. Can I put the block on the cutter and draw the lines down the track? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I am buffering really bad. You guys let me know if I have stalled. And otherwise, okay, it quit buffering. I'm going to keep going. Okay, so the next thing that I found helpful, so if you look at the line at 2 inches and ignore these other ones, that is what gives us 4 quadrants. We're going to work on 1 quadrant at a time. And last night I found it was really easy for me so that I wasn't getting confused, is I want you to either take some Post-it notes or another piece of paper, and we're going to block off what we don't want to see. So at that halfway mark, I'm just going to follow my pencil lines. I don't have to be right on the pencil line, but here's what I'm trying to do. I am trying to ignore the rest of the lines on my piece of cardstock. So I am working on this 2-inch square, and then when I'm done with that 2-inch square, I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to shift my piece so that I'm always just seeing the corner that I want to work on. Okay, it really does help you ignore all those other lines that you've got drawn, and then we can get started. Now remember, this little corner right here is part of that center that we don't want to put anything in. So if you want to even somehow put something there so that you don't accidentally put some strips in it, go ahead. I am going to start up here at the top. Now this measures 1.5 inches. Sometimes my 1.5 inches, if I start on that line, doesn't reach the outside edge because for whatever reason I'm a little off and it didn't reach all the way to the side. So I am going to cut some 1 3/4 inch by 1/2 inch strips to make sure I get to the outside edge. When it comes to our designer series paper, to make this block, you're going to need 4 scraps that are 1 3/4 inches in length by 1/2 inch wide. You're going to need 4 that are 1.5 inch in length by the 1/2 inch, 4 that are 1 inch by the 1/2 inch, and 4 1/2 inch squares. Okay? And you'll see why when we're building the pattern. So knowing that, if I bring in those strips of designer series paper, I can start cutting some of these. And I think what I'll do is I'll just cut some that are 1 3/4 inches. That way I know that my strips are going all the way out to the edge where they need to. And then I will, let's see, I need some 1.5 inch lengths. So let's cut some 1.5. And I need 1 inch. So let's slide those over. Do a 1 inch. And finally, I need some little 1/2 inch squares. Okay. Now I've got these extras in case I decide I want to repeat a pattern somewhere. I'm going to move these all out of my way, and I'm going to bring in 2 more of my strips, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut 1 3/4 inches. If it's a little longer, don't worry, because we're going to trim off what sticks out over the edge. I just want to make sure that I am getting to the outside edge where I need to be. 1/2 inch by 1.5. 1 inch. And a 1/2 inch square. Now these are going to be more than what I need, but remember, it's giving me options, okay? Again, 1 3/4, 1.5, 1, and a 1/2 inch square. Okay. So now I'm just going to get all my pieces. And I've got a whole bunch from working on these earlier. Beside me in case I want to use something over again. So I'm going to bring back in I think I'm going to leave this here for you. Okay, I think it will show. Okay, so remember, nothing goes here in this little square. I'm going to take one of my 1 3/4 inch strips, and you're always going to start with that longest one. And I just grabbed this purple, okay? And it's going to sit right at that line. And it is going to hang off the edge of my block. Now, what I like to do is I like to take my thumb, crease it at the edge, and create a little fin. Can you see my little fin? Now I can hold on to that fin. Oh, come on. Hold on. I did this once this morning already. Just need to unclog my little glue bottle there. Again, I'm going to hold on to my little fin, put some glue down, and then on the line, not all the way down to the center, I am going to put that first scrap of Designer Series paper down. Now I'm going to move in just a little bit more so that you can see this a little bit better. Okay. So that's the first strip. Yes, Shirley, and Beth did answer you. So you're drawing the lines at 1.5, 2, and 2.5. And then I rotate the paper and repeat it so that it, you know, looks like I got all these different size, or all these lines going vertically and horizontally. Okay, so there's my first one. Now I need a 1.5 inch. So, you know, maybe what I should do is let's get all these ones that are 1 3/4 inch out of the way, because those are the ones that are always going to start us off. And then let's find, now we need a 1.5. Okay. Let's see, do I want another pattern there? And here's where you just gotta play. But this is scrappy, you guys, so don't be like me and overthink everything. This is scrappy. But you do want to be able to see that the colors aren't all, and patterns aren't all blending together. So let's say I want to, next to the purple, I'm going to use this piece. Now this is the 1.5 inch length. This length, what we're doing is we're going to create steps that go down. So this strip here is going to go all the way, it's going to go down to our 2 inch line that we drew. Now my post-it note is just a little below that line. So I brought it down to the 2 inch, and see how we're going to create steps as we go down. So let's put this here. It's going to butt up next to the strip beside it. And I want to be able to see where my line is. It's important that we have a straight line. So there's that one. Now we're going to step down, and as we're stepping down, our strips are getting shorter. So now we need, I'm going to move these 1.5 inch pieces out of the way. And now I'm looking at my 1 inch pieces. Okay, there leaves all our little squares. So let's say, bring some color in. And from now on, our pieces are all going to meet along this straight line right here. So here, see how we're stepping down? And then when we get to our 1/2 inch piece, it finishes off our steps. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. But remember, this center square has got to stay open. So don't put anything right there. Let's go ahead and butt that up to there. And then put in our square right here. Okay, I'm going to take my Post-it note away because I'm going to turn this a quarter of a turn to the left, and I want to work on this area. So what I'll do, you can either leave this exposed because you know you're going to be butting your next piece right up to these, which is the reason why this needs to be straight. I don't know if I can get it to move. Okay. So you can cover it up. And move your Post-it notes around so that you're only paying attention to this corner right here, and you're going to repeat the process. So I think for my longest piece, I think I'm going to go use this one. Again, this is scrappy. If you're a planner and you want to plan this out, go ahead. I forgot to make my fin, so I'm really hoping I don't have too much glue on that back side. And then again, now my 1.5 inch strip is going to come all the way down to that middle line there. So let's see, what do I want to put there? I need some white to show. So I think I'm going to bring in this piece, and it's going to come down. See, we're creating our steps. But to the line. Don't let your Post-it note trick you into thinking that it's got to go down to the Post-it note. It needs to be that center line. And now I'm going to go down to my 1 inch. Let's put some yellow in there. Not a super lot of contrast there, but it's okay. And then let's put in, maybe we'll just bring in this little blue square. Now remember, anything that hangs off the edge, we're going to trim that up when we turn it over. Okay. So now when I remove my strips, you can kind of see this pattern that we've got going. I'm going to turn it a quarter of a turn. I'm going to block that off. And I think I'm going to just go ahead and leave these two sides open so I can see my pattern. And I can see what colors I've used already. And where I might want to change things up. I'm going to use this really colorful one. I'm going to set it there. I'm going to crease it to make my fin that I can hold on to. And I know that no glue goes beyond that crease. And let's see, let's put in, let's do this piece here. This is pretty. This is our 1.5 inch length. And this does come, it drops down to create the step. But I want it on that center line. Pretty close. Yep. Okay. And see how we're keeping that center open? And there's a reason for that. Okay, now I need a 1 inch length. What haven't I used yet? Let's use this one right here. Oh, maybe no, I think I'm going to go with this other one. And you can cut more pieces as you go along. And then let's put, I think we're going to put this yellow here. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it one more. And I've got just this corner left to do. I think I can do it without needing any more of my Post-it notes. Okay, I need that long one. Let's go. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. What do I want to do here? I think I want to bring in some more blue. So I'll put that down, create my little fin. Oh, shoot, I put it on the wrong side. Well, guess what we're doing now, you guys? I messed myself up when I flipped that fin over. But that's okay, it's scrappy. It's scrappy. It'll be okay. Let's bring in some green. You just got to stay a little organized with this one. And knowing your different lengths. Okay, so there's that. Now I need... Whew, for some reason I was thinking I really messed up. Let's use this. Oh no, I don't want to do that. See, now when you get down to your few pieces, but you're like, okay, I've already used that, I don't want to repeat that. You can take one of yours that you have left over, and you can trim it down. So I'm going to trim this one down to 1.5. Oh wait, no, I need a 1. I need a 1. Yep, I need a 1. Oh, shoot. I muscled that one. And we'll just put this 1-inch square, or this 1/2-inch square on the B side right next to here. Okay, so there's our quilt block. We've got some movement. It's kind of like spinning, and so we've got movement that's going around. I want to make sure that my lines are straight. Okay, now what we can do is we can, whoa, this one moved on me too. Hold on. Okay, now we can turn it over, and you can take your snips and you're going to trim away anything that is hanging off the edge. Till I got glue on my snips. And when you clean this block up by removing those pieces that are sticking out there, it really tidies up the block. And that's what you're going to see when it's all done. Now you can stop, and this could be your quilt block right here. But I'm going to have you step it up a little bit. So remember, you already have a quilt block right here. Now what I want to do is I want to go in and erase my center. And I wish that line was a little bit straighter, but we can work with that. So I erased my center lines. And now remember those 4 squares of cardstock that match our background here? We're going to cut each of these diagonally once, and we're going to make some triangles. So corner to corner. I like to keep mine in pairs because I know they work together because I cut them at the same time. And I'm just eyeballing this. You can use your trimmer if you want. Sometimes these pieces just get a little too small and it just, I don't know, I'm all thumbs then on my trimmer. So I'm just eyeballing it. And so now I have 4 pairs of triangles. And we are going to do something with that center square. I'm going to take one of my triangles. I'm going to put a little adhesive on the back. And what I'm doing is I'm working around my center square. I am going to make sure that my 90-degree angle of my triangle is always sitting on the outside corner. So I'm just going to put that right on top of that piece of Designer Series paper. Now what I'm looking at is I don't want to see my Designer Series paper peeking through because I want this center block and these points to look like they're all one piece. Okay. Again, my 90-degree angle is going to sit in the corner. And we have this little, kind of looks like a collar right now, but we have our points. And we're going to turn this a quarter of a turn, and I'm just going to keep going around and putting my triangles in the outside corners, lining them up also with the Designer Series paper. And you can see what we're creating here. Now I'm going to turn this just a bit so it feels more comfortable in my hand. Now you don't have to use cardstock for your background piece or your triangles. You could use another piece of Designer Series paper. I would, you just want to make sure that there's contrast. And a solid color really lets the Designer Series paper patterns do their thing. And I just love the look of a flat color next to my Designer Series paper. So I go to cardstock a lot. Instead of sorting through all my Designer Series paper looking for one that screams just one color that matches my background or is the same as my background, but also doesn't get lost in all the colors that are going on around it. So, you know, when you go to your cardstock, it's just the one color. And overlap a little bit if you have to. When we quilt this through the machine, it'll help lay down these ridges. But as you can see, we now have a star that is in the center of our quilt block. You don't have to build the star if you don't want to. You could just stop where we did prior. but the star just does kind of zhuzh it up a little bit. And has that nice quilter's look to the block. Okay, so now we have our star. And yes, you do have a little bit of a lip, but that's where the rollers in your machine will help lay all of that down. Okay? All right. I was just looking for any questions. Okay, so the embossing folder that I'm going to use, because I have some circular movement there, is I am going to use this embossing folder right here. And I'm sorry, you guys, I always forget the name of it. If somebody knows it or can look it up, I would appreciate that. I'm also going to put it in my, I think now I can, okay, let's back up. Let's make this a little bit smaller there. Okay. Like in your face. And I am just going to try and center that little circle. In the center of my star. It may not be perfect, but can you see how it's kind of like right there in the center? And this is a good example as to if I would have scored all my lines. Now what you may want to do is you might want to decide what lines you want to score. You could have scored your outside lines, but used a pencil so that you found your center, so you knew to stay away from putting anything here. You can do it a number of ways. Do what makes sense to you and helps keep you on track, and you're aware of where you're putting your pieces. Any other embossing folder, if this was filled in, I probably could totally hide those score lines, those crosshairs that are in the middle of our block. But with this one, it leaves it open. So I just want to pay attention to that. So I'm going to run this through really quick. Let's see what we got here. So there is my block. And here's something else. Like, see, I'm not happy that I can see my designer series paper right there. I could try to use, oh, I don't know, Stampin' Right marker or a blends and color that. But what I also can do is be aware that when I'm putting my card together, I might be able to make it less noticeable. See, when I put it at the top, it's less noticeable. So play around with the position of your block, and you can kind of hide things that way too. Okay. Let's bring in our card base. Now, I'm not going to wrap any ribbon around the binding. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some adhesive there. And I'm going to close this up. The book binding fold really showcases a 4-inch block really, really nicely. And that 4-inch block becomes your focal point. It's all about the quilt block. Now remember, I have that little stamped piece that's 1 inch by 4 inch. This designer series paper is going to fit right in the binding. And I love that my Just a Note is vertical. and it sits right next to the quilt block. If you've never stamped on designer series paper before, give it a try. Make sure that you can see what you're stamping. But stamping on designer series paper is really fun because it gives you pattern, and you've got your message there. It makes it a lot of fun. So there's that. Now on the inside, stamp your sentiment before you glue it down, just in case you make a boo-boo and you know, you might have to flip the piece of paper over. I'm leaving this plain. So I'm just going to put some glue around the outside edge. I'm going to put my insert on the inside, leaving a nice border all the way around. I'm going to flip it over, and remember I told you I had cut this extra piece. Well, I embossed with the same embossing folder a strip for the back, and I want them to feel something going on back there so that they'll turn it over and see who made the card. So I'm going to put this on the bottom. And then I have a button ready with who created the card, and that's going to sit right in the center. About halfway. I think looks nice. There we go. So now when they're holding the card, they're like, ooh, what are all these little bumps and bubbles on the back? Okay, so we got that. And now I am just going to glue my quilt block to this part of my bookbinding fold, and it's going to create that border, because it's 1/4 of an inch smaller than the space that we created when we scored. I'm going to use that little piece of designer series paper on the side to kind of help me keep everything in line. And because of all the texture with the bubbles, I am just really making sure that I'm pressing my edges so that they're nice and flat and not rippled. So there's our quilt card so far. I got a lot of color going on. I want it to be colorful. Now here I'm going to bring in some of these little flowers, and I'm going to put a couple right up here. Now remember, if I want to, if I had to hide something in the center of my star, I could put another flower right in the center, and I'll show you the one that I did, and you can see what that whole scoring thing was about. I don't know here. I think I'm gonna go, I know I'm gonna go ahead with these 2 flowers that are up here. Now I'm gonna use glue dots for these, and yes, that is an open hole, but that's okay, because that open hole is going to get covered up with some bling. And my petals are going to be loose. But that open hole with that glue dot behind it is also giving me a little bit more adhesion for my embellishment. So to me, it's like, it's a win. Now, when I'm placing this second flower, I want to stay away from that crease. Okay, I don't want it to get caught in that crease. But I also just want to kind of have it going a little bit a different way. So there's my 2 flowers. Again, I don't know. Should I put one in the center? I can show you examples of what it looks like where it's just the star, or whether you're putting something in here. Now with elements of 3 that's pleasing, yes, that works, but you don't always have to work in 3s. So I could just leave this open and just go with 2. I mean, it's totally up to you. I'm going to use the pecan pie and clear dots. Now, it says pecan pie, but these can really take on a champagne color. So I'm going to use, I need to use these up anyway. So I'm going to put one of these right as the center of my flower. Okay, give it some shine. I don't know. I don't know if I want to bring some shine into this or not. What do you guys think? Should I put a flower in the center? Yep, you can. Yep, Sherry, that's a really good point. Yes, you can use a brad for the center of the flower. Becky says no. Okay, so you know what? Let's just leave it. You know, if it really bothers me, I can go back. I like the simplicity. Again, I don't want to compete too much with the star of the show, which is my quilt block. I mean, it's large for a reason. It's to get your attention. And so I'm just not going to do it yet. I might change my mind. So this is the bookbinding fold. Okay, now I want to show you. Remember that second piece of cardstock that I had you cut, but then, you know, I go and I change my mind. You know the saying, we're only one score line away from a fun fold? Well, this is the bookbinding fold. Okay, look at this. This is the bookbinding fold, but if we score this in half, we now have a Z fold. So we have a bookbinding Z fold. And what you are going to want to do is you're going to want to back your quilt block with another piece of cardstock so that it's sturdy. I changed my mind and I went with what the color of my card base was to just keep it all fluid, but you could use the same color as whatever your base was. But that's why that other piece came into play. So we went from a regular bookbinding fold to a bookbinding Z fold. Okay, and then when you open it up, look how pretty your quilt block sits next to the inside. And here I finished it with, what did we put on the front? Wishing You. So don't you just love these fonts vertically on the binding? And then you've got your block there. And here I did put a flower in the center. Okay, so now you can see what it looks like. Plain. Well, not plain, but, you know, open. My star is open here. And then here's a star that's got the flower. So there's our Z fold. And then I went ahead and just did another top fold This is just a regular top fold card. I left, see, you can see my score lines, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. There's my score lines. And then instead of doing anything else, I just put 3 flowers there in the corner and put my sentiment at the bottom. So I'm stamping right on the cardstock instead of piece of designer series paper. So those are just 3 different layouts that you can use with your stars. But look how pretty these different blocks are. So scrappy. If you want to be a planner and you've got a certain color scheme, go for it. But how can I make this sit down? Anyway, so that is today's mystery quilt block. Just a very scrappy square with some movement by the way we place the strips. Phew, excuse me. The way that we place those scraps helps give it movement, so it looks like it's spinning. And yes, the darker background really will make your pattern pop, so keep that in mind. White would have worked really well too with the bright colors, but when you think dark, don't think just black. Look at your Night of Navy, Blackberry Bliss. Look at those other colors as being your dark, if that is a color that's in the scraps that you're using, and let that dark color is going to make all those other colors pop really nicely. So I have more cards to make. I'm going to give away 3 cards. So if you want to, I don't even know if this scrappy block has a name. I have no idea. I just saw it used on, I saw it as a pattern on Pinterest. Gosh, you guys, I don't even know. I guess we're gonna, oh, Lord have mercy. I don't know. Does anybody have a suggestion? Okay, Diane, let's go with Scrappy Star. Just put Scrappy Star. Let's not make it too difficult, but that's going to be our keyword, Scrappy Star. And remember, you don't have to put the points on. You've got a quilt block all in its own, and it kind of gave me that like aperture type of feel when it was just an open square and you could see like a kaleidoscope type thing happening. So you don't have to put the points on. You're getting a 2-for-1, two quilt blocks, and all you got to do to step it up is add your points. Okay, so thank you for joining me today. I think we might have gone over a little bit because of the time it took to lay out all the pieces. Look for a PDF to drop in the files over in the group Quilt Cards and More. It's the only place I can put the PDF to store it. And you do have to join the group. But get this, if you join the group, there's a whole bunch of PDFs over there. And the group is so good about sharing patterns. There are card makers who are whipping up quilt blocks and they're sketching it out on grid paper and they're openly sharing with you their design. It is, I am so proud of this group. They are so giving. So the PDF will be over in the group Quilt Cards and More. I can't wait to see what your blocks look like. Again, your block is the star of the show. And yeah, I will work on the PDF, and I'm sure that I'm going to have it done before the weekend. My week has slowed down some, so, and I've already taken pictures to go in the PDF. So don't be surprised if it's not like by tomorrow. But make your cards, share them, and we can't wait to be inspired by what you do. And what is your take on it? What did you see differently? Maybe you even came up with another block. That is why sharing is so awesome, because collectively we collectively as a group and sharing, our card making gets better. Okay? And we can bless someone with a beautiful card from things that we picked up from other people that we never might have thought of. So sharing is such a good thing. Okay, everybody, have a very blessed rest of your day, and I'll be checking the group to see what you did today, okay? All right, talk to you later. Now it's time for some lunch.